America. We are right back with more from DCB Live. My next guest engineered his way out of politics and became a rising star down at ASUCM. He is now our first engineer to be ASUCM president. Please welcome President Miguel Craven. Mr. President, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Glad that you invited me here.
So you're a third-year mechanical engineer major. You have been a part of Vanguard for so long, and you're currently our student body president for the 2023/2024 academic year. I do remember the first time we met was at last year's Student Organizing Summit hosted by UCSA. And the week after that, we met again, and we both attended this engineering conference that had a stupid name, in my opinion. It was called Student Leadership Workshop, I believe. I hope you remember that as well. But we have met a lot of great people there, and we also noticed that there were a couple of other folks who also joined us, from UC Merced. And, I have never had the chance to ask you this, right? While we were together during these times. Walk us through your memory lane, if you will, on how Miguel Craven became the person that he is now.
Honestly, kind of I don't know if it's fun, but I always like telling the story regardless because I've told it a fair number of times since I'm really proud of being at this school. And I think coming here was a very unexpected turn for sure. And it wasn't something that I was expecting at all. So back in high school, I guess, I wasn't involved at all. Like, I was in robotics, but that was it. Like, always stuck to my robotic stuff. Wasn't involved with student government, didn't really attend events. I think it wasn't until my junior year of high school that I attended my first dance, which was homecoming dance. And that was freshman year, or not freshman.
One of the proudest moments, right?
Yeah. First semester of junior year. Like, it took me that long to get out. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I was. I was really, I guess, worked really hard in my academics, or at least took rigorous courses, but didn't always work the best at the same time. Had good work ethic. It was just my high school. I didn't like a lot of the teachers there who assigned busy work. So they would just assign work to assign work. So I'd refuse to do it, but still did well in my classes. And yeah, kind of the only, I guess, unique part was when I got to my senior year of high school. I really did not enjoy the high school that I was at. I already knew that by my first semester of junior year. I didn't like the high school I was at. So I was planning on transferring out to do a online school to graduate early. So that's what I did my senior year. Luckily, it worked out really well with COVID already being everything online. So yeah, I did my senior year through an online school, finished in a semester. And then while I was doing that, I did community college for a year. Just worked on getting some of my general ed and math classes out of the way. So yeah, but then it kind of brought me to Merced. I took a chance on the school because, in all honesty, I hadn't gone into a single school that I applied to. And instead, I had three options, and Merced was the furthest one away from home while still being in California. So I decided to come here and honestly really loved the school when I first visited. Yeah, my first experience with the school was actually coming here and visiting over the summer. They had this program for my freshman year where they allowed families to spend a night in the dorms. So it was a cool experience. Got to come up here with my parents, spent the night in the Valley Terraces. But yeah, it was 116 degrees that day that we came, and it was really hot. And I remember my parents asking me, like, are you sure about this? Like, you want to come here? You see how hot it is? I'm like, yep. this is exactly where I want to go. Like I still
And
want to be
this
here.
was when 2021.
2021. Yeah.
Okay, wow, 116 when you
Yeah.
arrived. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So it was really hot, and like they canceled the tour that I was supposed to have that day because of how hot it was. So we
And you
never
took
officially
all
got a
this
tour.
effort all the way from home, and then came to
Yep.
realize that the tour was canceled.
Yep. All the way from Orange County, drove all the way up here. We had done a whole, luckily we had done a whole trip, like going along the Central Coast. Spent a night in, I think we spent a night in Slow, and then spent another night in Monterey, I believe. So, or yeah, it was either Monterey. Yeah, it was Monterey, I believe. So we spent a night there and then went to Merced afterwards. So it was kind of a long trip, and then all of it for the tour to get canceled, but it wasn't a big deal. So it worked out. Come to love the school, really enjoy it. And yeah, I guess since then, the only other major part was my first semester here kind of led me to ASUCM in all honesty. It was because of what happened my first semester that I am where I am now. Coming here, I really enjoyed the school, but I had a kind of poor experience with my advisor, my freshman advisor, where I wanted to take Calc 22 coming into Merced. So I wanted to take that as a freshman because I had taken Calc 2 at the community college, passed the class, but felt like I didn't really have a good understanding. So instead wanted to do Calc 22. My advisors told me, no, you can't take a class that you've already passed. So I stuck taking Calc 23 as a freshman with Professor Hike, who I think a lot of engineering students kind of know is notorious for being an extremely difficult course, especially when he was out for about a month with COVID as well. So just lectures were it was like back to online school. Nobody really had anything. So yeah, that really put me down and led me to failing out my entire first semester here. I actually failed all but one class. So I passed a single unit class, which was the mechanical engineering seminar. That was the only class I passed. So yeah, that put me really at the bottom of the barrel and really kind of humbled me and made me realize, okay, like I really have to try in school. It's not quite what I thought it was before. So came back second semester and pushed myself to be really involved. Luckily, one of the previous senators, Ethan Merced, he was a senator for School of Engineering at the time. He had kind of introduced me because I was involved with Vanguard, and he was the president of that at the time as well. And he had kind of told everyone in the organization, like, hey, there's this thing called ASUCM Senate. It's going on. The elections are coming up. Like, you guys should run for it. And I was the only person out of that entire room, I think, that ended up running for Senate. But yeah, I was just like, I need to get more involved. I need to do more stuff. Never thought about being involved with student government. Went into it having not a clue what the role entailed, what I was supposed to do, or anything like that. But yeah, campaigned successfully and was luckily elected in, and came to really love the experience of being a senator. I got to do a lot of stuff that I think just really inspired me and connected me a lot more with campus, to the point that it was just a really enjoyable experience, and just naturally from there kind of led me to president where I am today.
And no doubt about it, like your first day as a Bobcat, you're being introduced to various things that you can do, but you only have such limited time to make those moments happen, right? Were there any regrets dating back since day one of your Bobcat experience? Or were there any moments that you wish you would like to relive or re-experience?
Honestly, I think about that a fair amount from time to time. Big one always being like, okay, what if I just like pushed myself harder for that Math 23 class and just push myself to get through it? And in all honesty, I don't think I would exchange that. Like, it's not a regret, in all honesty. I learned a lot from it. It really humbled me. So I think failing out that entire first semester was not, well, it's not a great thing on paper. It put me back about a year from what I was expected to graduate, I think. So yeah, it put me to 4 years, but I'm still happy with that. I really enjoy college, so there's no reason for me to try to graduate early or anything. So yeah, looking back at it, that's what my only regret used to be. And at this point, I'm it's not even a regret anymore, because I don't think it would have led me to the same experiences that I have now.
You made your debut in ASUCM back in fall of 2022. You were Senator of School of Engineering under the Farias Administration, and your campaign priorities revolved around academic and research reform. You wanted to bring in more research opportunities, to undergrad students, who need it the most, and find more efficient ways where Bobcats can achieve their academic goals.
What would you say is your main takeaway, from your Senate experience by itself?
I think the main takeaway has honestly been just how I think it's just been learning kind of the experiences of what college is and learning how to connect people and how to really communicate with people. A big part of me being involved with Senate was sitting on the Small Corporations Board or Budget and Finance Committee. So we'd see any clubs that come for funding under $3,000, which ends up being pretty much tons and tons of clubs on campus. So I got to interact with them every week, got to meet with pretty much all clubs and learn about just not just their clubs, but the people that are involved with them, who they are, the kind of experiences that they've had, what events they host. And that was honestly, I think, the main takeaway and the best part of being a senator was just getting to meet all those new people and learn from firsthand experience, just learning from other people through firsthand experience, what they've experienced at Merced, how I could help them, what their issues are as well. So there's a lot to learn from there.
At the time, UC Merced was still coming out of its shell from the post-pandemic world, right?
Our campus has officially opened 2 years ago, while the rest of the clubs and orgs were still underway on bringing back some of the old events that they used to host pre-pandemic. Now, as a senator yourself, how did you navigate that time period? And did you see any of your campaign priorities, back when you first ran as a senator, change over time as the Senate itself was undergoing this transition into the post-pandemic world? Because President Farias had made that a top priority, right? So can you talk about how did you navigate that time period, and did anything surprise you out of that transition?
It was kind of, going back to when I ran for Senate, that was one of the bigger priorities I had. I know you had mentioned the academics and research as well, but I think the biggest one for me was just campus community and unity. Coming in as a freshman, I was honestly really upset by just how little there was going on campus. I lived on campus, and I'd be here on the weekends because I didn't want to go home. I enjoyed being here. And I'd say probably good 60% of residents were on almost every weekend. So it's just walking around at night, walking around even during the day, it felt very empty compared to what it feels like now. Walking around at night now, there's students all around. It's a great experience. So yeah, I think that was one of the big priorities for me as well. And navigating that was honestly just kind of led through just by learning and trying to experience everything that I could as senator. And President Farias Corbin did a great job at the time of kind of navigating all of us and helping us figure out what we each want to do and how to go about it. So he definitely, I think, helped me a fair amount by being kind of informing me about the committees and realizing that the Budget and Finance Committee plays such a crucial role in our day-to-day operations, and getting to be a part of that and just supporting clubs through what we know, what we have been taught. So learning from previous senators and from the executives as well at the time, learning from them what it takes to host an event, what kind of stuff goes into it. So all of their teachings kind of rubbed onto me, and from there I was able to help through the Budget and Finance Committee, dealing with them every week, kind of give some advice on how to host their events, what kind of supplies to go with, and just all sorts of stuff. So it worked out really well. And especially with the group of people that I was working with, a lot of the senators last year, really enjoyed working with all of them. So yeah, it was a mix of that and just the great team that I had, that we were all able to bounce off each other's ideas and really kind of help bring some of that unity together. And I think we were pretty successful in the end. I think looking back at it, there were a lot more events compared to my freshman year. And I had a lot of fun attending some of the events, or a fair number of the events that I'd luckily kind of helped come make and come bring to life.
When Zoom University was in session at UC Merced, we have downplayed like the role of the student, and we haven't really taken into account, how to help students cope with, the effects of the pandemic and help them succeed in the classroom, if you will. But I did notice that the dynamics, of interacting with the course material have changed over time, and it's led to like a fluctuating bump into the retention rate when majority of us went back to in person, right, as the campus has successfully reopened. But another factor that I noticed that also played a huge role into this is that the large rate of professors, right, from the School of Engineering are retiring, and the classes that used to be offered every semester are now offered every other semester. With respect to the School of Engineering, did you notice any drastic changes that have impacted engineering students in a way from the pandemic era to the post-pandemic world?
There's a fair amount different in all honesty, looking back. I think not so much with the curriculum, but just kind of the effort kind of put in by a lot of students. I think when you give that option of hybrid, it kind of tends to leave students to go, okay. And that's kind of my experience. My first semester here was like, okay, well, if it's hybrid, I don't have to worry about attending. That's exactly what happened with my calc class. So yeah, I think while it is a great opportunity to have because it gives those students that don't have the accessibility to get to class, or say that they have some kind of something just comes up, right, that they can't attend the class, it's a great alternative for them. So I think it's great to still offer to this day, but definitely looking back, I think it harmed a fair amount of people just because there's no kind of accountability to keep the students just going to lectures or paying attention in class. And I think even going forward, it seems like it's still a bit of a struggle. I mean, more than anything, I think it's more of a struggle of just getting students in class. Like, I'm sure sitting in a lot of your lectures, probably a good 50 to 60% of the class usually does not attend. And we're still early on in the semester, but I know for my lower division classes, oftentimes it was maybe like 20 students in a class of 100 students, right? So there were a fair amount of classes that were like that. I think that was a little bit reflective of kind of what happens when you have that alternative. But I do hope that some of the professors to this day are still offering it. I know some do in the case that a student is sick, but it seems like we're starting to move a little further away from it, which is a bit unfortunate because I think there's still students that can benefit from it.
And at the time, the course catalog, was a brand, new feature, right, for students to access, because, it was really hard for thousands. And I say thousands because, we're still, dealing with an expanding population of Bobcats, right? When the course catalog came about to be, many people by now had an idea as to what classes were available, right? Say, by next semester or by the next school years, so it was very anticipative, right? For the campus administration at the time, especially the registrar, to offer that feature. We're currently experiencing, I wouldn't say a shortage, but we're seeing like a drop down of like a rate of professors or faculty retiring. And UC Merced as a whole, has to like find a way, right, to maintain those research opportunities, that is still going on and keep those same classes available, as stated, right, in the course catalog. So, are you optimistic about, UC Merced, paving the way, for these classes to be available while at the same time dealing with like, a increasing rate of retirement from professors?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, that's the first time that I've heard about the retirement rate kind of increasing. So it's good to know or good to hear it. It's not a good thing, but it's great that you've brought it to my attention. I'll say in that case, I'm not that optimistic because just because of, like, I'm sure you've seen with a lot of the engineering courses. If you look through the catalog, a lot of classes that count for numerous requirements, whether that's badges or requirement electives, any kind of thing for the engineering school of engineering, a lot of them aren't even offered anymore. I mean, you compare the badge system of what engineering classes count towards badges, and then you look at when the classes were last offered, and it's like back in 2016. And it kind of puts engineering students at a bit of a disadvantage, in my opinion. But yeah, going back to the idea of if I'm optimistic about the classes still being offered, I'll say for the classes that are required towards a major, I'm definitely optimistic on that. Like, I don't see why. Otherwise, you're going to be putting students behind. You're going to be kind of really upsetting the entire community. But could definitely see for a lot of the more specialty classes, the electives, those going down would not surprise me. Would not surprise me very much. So yeah, I think that's kind of my take on it. And I've definitely brought that awareness within my executive team. Said that for the our director of student or academic affairs, kind of that is one of their goals, is trying to work towards improving the badge system with the general ed board. So I know that the GE board kind of revised the badge system. I don't know if you noticed, but they changed the badge system for incoming students starting this year. So they have a different system as to how theirs works. They have fewer badges, although the badges really just got moved to a different area. So it's under some of their requirements, but it is an easier system for them now. They only have to worry about completing one of those badges of the 3 that got moved out. So it makes it a lot easier for them. But obviously, it's still a struggle for the students that are continuing at this institution and who started a couple years ago or even just last year, that still have to see the kind of fallout of what some of the harm that comes from the badge system.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the badge system has been revamped, as well, and the badges, are, for any first years out there, tuning in right now, the badges, are basically, just are basically like mini rewards that you get, when you take, classes that fit on certain requirements on your curriculum. So just a heads up on that. And I do see like a light shining, behind the darkness on that front, because, for years, concerning engineering students, and we hear this a lot, from the show, but engineering students, have noticed the graduation rate within the School of Engineering kind of like fumble, throughout the pandemic. And, right as, UC Merced was transitioning into the post-pandemic world, we have seen the graduation rate slightly tick back up, and I noticed this because, with the class of 2023, I would say at least 40%, right, of all the engineers, right, that I know are still stuck here, just trying to like, work with the system out, myself included. So I thought I would, bring that up because, for years we have seen like engineers, trying to make sense and just searching for what the loophole really is, in terms of like how these course requirements, play a huge role into your graduation rate, depending on, of course, the availability, right, of the class, and who's actually teaching it. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely very, very important to nail that out. Now, let's get into the hardcore stuff. Of course, you're currently the 18th president, for the record, 18th president, of ASUCM. Since its founding, you were the first. You were the first engineering president since Salma Memon in 2017, and it almost feels like ASUCM is moving towards a new vision from the lens of an engineering student, despite the fact that college politics is still running its course like it does. But before you even began your administration, there were a couple of, there were just a few bills, that was passed, right? When you were a senator then, President Farias, made this a priority, right? Like very late on spring of 2023, you guys have passed the Farias Build Back Better Act, which its main objective, overall, for those who don't know, the main objective of that bill was to revamp the legislative bylaws and to adjust and sort of modify, some of the legislative bylaws, that make the process make the process and structure of the Senate much more efficient, than say it was before. And one of the things that really struck me out was that in the old Senate legislative bylaws, public forum was at the very last of the Senate agenda. And with the new bill, right, with this Build Back Better Act, which I'm still questioning, I'm still questioning the integrity just behind the name itself, right? Coming out of a president, who is struggling to build back better, depending on which side of the aisle you ask. But you guys have moved the public forum all the way at the top of the Senate agenda. Can you tell your constituents just why was that move important? And what was, of course, your main takeaway, behind this bill?
Yeah, I mean, the main reason we did it was because kind of it happened in the second semester of last year. And we're noticing that I'm sure you've seen at the Senate meetings, usually there's hardly anyone from the public attending. But we started to see a little bit of an increase of people coming in and voicing their concerns about different issues on campus and starting to come in for public forum. So at that point, we're like, okay, we have all these students coming in, but generally the way that's worked in the past is having public forum at the very end. So you have these students that have to sit through the entire meeting, that have to sit through Senate going through everything on their agenda, and then can finally speak at the very end. And we know that there have been Senate meetings that go on for long periods of time.
Even past midnight.
Yeah, there's some in the past that have gone past midnight. Last year, we luckily didn't have any like that. But either way, that was still an issue. We kind of noticed that, okay, we don't want students having to wait for 2 hours probably on average before they can speak. So we went and decided there were a few meetings where pretty much we voted amongst ourselves to amend the agenda. And we did amend the agenda for, I think it was like 2 meetings that we amended it, where we had public forum at the beginning. And it honestly worked out really well because we were able to hear students out at the beginning, kind of get their voices, their concerns out, and then be able to help them there before having to then go to our actual agenda and not having to worry about the students kind of waiting there. And it worked out as well because there were cases where students still decided to stay even after the public forum at the beginning ended. And they would stay just to kind of hear the stuff that we were working on in Senate, still voice their concerns. I think last year we did a really great job as far as our IVP heading the Senate, working towards making it a little bit more relaxed and not having to kind of adhere as much by the Robert's Rules of Order, which is not always the best system. I mean, if someone knows how to use the system really well, they can really kind of own the entire Senate room. So it was nice that way because it gave some flexibility in being able to have members of the public speak more frequently. We had them kind of give their comments throughout on the bills and just act as like it was really just a roundtable discussion with everyone in the Senate room, all of us sitting there together and being able to talk to one another. So it worked out really well in that case.
Were there specific components of that bill that you advocated for?
I'm going to be honest, I'd have to look through the bill again. We went through a lot of bylaw revisions last year. I know the...
or what struck you the most? What struck you the most in the bill?
Yeah, I'd have to look through the bill again to remember what was even changed. I think probably the public forum was one of the bigger ones. And yeah, I can't remember off the legislative bylaws. yeah, can't remember what was on the legislative bylaws. I know I changed a lot to do with I'd done the budget, or the financial bylaws was a huge one that I changed a fair amount throughout the year. We also did some stuff for the election bylaws and other stuff as well for the multicultural council. So the legislative were kind of the ones that I didn't touch as much. Those were mainly led by Senator Liu. So he kind of led the effort on that one and worked together with J.O.V.E and Corbin on that. Whereas me and Lawson had kind of worked throughout the year on all the other bylaws that we had. And yeah, I think it was pretty successful. The financial ones I think financial and legislative were definitely the ones that needed the most updates compared to the rest of the bylaws.
Yeah, and very quickly, the design studio proposal, is currently underway, under your presidency. Can you give a quick overview for our audience as to the context behind and the purpose behind the design studio proposal, and what do you look forward to on that proposal?
Yeah, honestly, it's been a project I've kind of been leading since last semester. So, in an effort sitting on the Budget and Finance Committee, I realized that our budget is pretty tight regardless, and we take a lot through student fees. I mean, that's our entire source of income. And ultimately, that is not the best source of income for students. I mean, it's great consistent income, but if we want to expand our services, we definitely need to figure out ways to not charge students as much through direct fees. So looking at alternatives, something that I thought of at the end of the year was working towards getting a sticker machine, because that would be an easy way for us to cut a couple costs, and being able to make our own stickers for the office, along with for clubs, they could hire us out and we can make stickers for them. So then kind of going throughout the summer, I worked with my director of communications and working into the school year as well, and kind of designing the framework and the idea of what we want it to look like, to which and kind of leading us to where we are today, where we've finally decided on the name, the Creative Lab. So it'll be called the ASUCM Creative Lab. Still getting used to the name change, but yeah, that's what the name will be now. And the focus for that is to have really just a group or a team of graphic designers that can make digital designs and physical mediums for not just students, but also departments and faculty on campus. So anyone could hire them out. And that's kind of the goal for it, is that way we can bring some revenue to ASUCM. That way we can redistribute it to clubs on campus, and just to give students kind of a sense of community on campus as well. I mean, it's been very effective. I modeled, kind of modeling our system off of UC San Diego. So they have a really effective design studio there, and they actually operate all the marketing material for their AS and the Triton Outfitters, which is a really neat student-run organization that they have on campus, led by their AS, and all the designs are made by their design studio. And it is a apparel store that students can go to purchase any kind of material any kind of clothes that kind of pertain to their colleges and identities on campus. They have neat stuff for each quarter. They also have stuff for their Sun God Festival, which is kind of something that was influencing some of the stuff that we want to do later down the line with the Creative Lab. And so, yeah, that was really just the guidance for what we're doing here. And goals for the Creative Lab at the moment, we're still trying to see how we'll sit for this upcoming year. So we applied for two interns through the Student Success Internship Program. That's run by, it's through UCOP that runs the entire program. But pretty much it's a great program. It gives students the offer to get an internship on campus and have a $3,000 stipend, along with being able to present a deliverable at the end of the program. So the goal for that is hopefully we'll find out by probably end of this week or early next week if we get approved. And we are hoping for two interns, a design intern or a marketing intern and a business intern. So the marketing one will be focused on doing research as far as like what are the most effective mediums for getting students' attention and being able to get interaction from students on campus. So figuring out what the most effective methods of marketing are, along with just making designs for the design studio and getting to use the sticker machine that we had gotten as well, or that's in the process of coming in. So getting to manage that and just kind of learning the process of how to manage their own company. And then the business intern is there to kind of set really the framework and the structure for the entire organization, figuring out what are the needs from students, faculty, departments. So figuring out all the needs of the campus, along with coming up with ideas of what would be good marketing material, who wants what, and kind of doing research in that aspect. So those are the goals for it. We'll find out hopefully by this end of this week or next week, and then there'll definitely be a lot more promotional material if that's the case. If that's not the case, if we don't get the interns or if we only get one, then we'll likely still move forward with getting interns through a stipend system similar to the student success internship. So figuring out an alternative to there. But yeah, if we hit a roadblock, it'll be okay. We'll continue on. So definitely a project that I'm really looking forward to and has kind of been my favorite while working as president so far this year.
You know, on behalf of the student body, I like to say for the record, that sounded very creative. You know what I'm saying? It goes by the name itself, ASUCM Creative Lab. You know, because I have to question this too. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to put you on the spot here. But has ASUCM been that creative for the past 3 years? You know what I'm saying? You know, like how did they all of a sudden they just made a soft landing on that name itself? But it kind of resembles everything, right? It embraces, right, the importance of student talent, you know, that really wants to provide as many resources as possible, you know, for anyone who needs it. You know what I'm saying? Because the design studio, as you also mentioned, right, it would be available, right, for the student body to use. So definitely a great initiative that the student body will definitely be looking forward to. But very quickly, would you like to share any updates, you know, with our audience regarding any upcoming events, you know, or opportunities regarding ASUCM? The special election is underway.
Yeah, it's underway.
Is underway. Can you just give us a quick specs on, you know, on what can we anticipate for ASUCM?
Yeah, I mean, we have special elections. They're going on right now. We're looking at, I think, around 19 candidates. So some of the most competitive elections that we've seen in a long time. There will be a total of, at the moment, we have 7 seats, I believe. So 6 at large, 1 for School of Engineering. We will most likely be up to 8 seats due to, at the moment, we have a senator who hasn't attended any of the meetings. So we'll find out by tonight, pretty much if they don't attend the meeting, that'll be 3 missed meetings. So then there'll be an extra spot in the elections. We also have the Meet the Candidates event going on tonight, although I think by the time this airs, it will have already passed. But yeah, that's going on tonight. And I don't know the exact dates for the voting, but I believe it starts next week on Tuesday. So Tuesday through Thursday, I'm pretty sure are the voting dates. So yeah, really exciting process. It's been going on pretty well so far. I'm really excited just to see the candidates and who we'll have as our senators for this upcoming year. And then, yeah, thanks some of the other stuff that's been going on through ASUCM. We have some great efforts otherwise. We have this Friday I don't know if you saw the Alumni Association has a baseball game going on for the Oakland A's. And I don't know if you saw the opportunity that we provided for 50 students to attend for free. So we worked with the Alumni Association, and ASUCM passed this bill last week so that 50 students
I've been loyal to the Dodgers for the past 20 years. So unfortunately, I wish the Oakland A's and the Padres the best of luck, you know, in this season, right? I don't know if the World Series, you know, has them for it, but, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, we'll see what those 50 students will think about that. You know, Mr. President, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.